Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, my name is Demigod, Shmurda here. Hello and welcome back to another video and welcome back to another episode of Arrowverse Analysis. Long live King Thamel, aka Tyranitar Tube, aka T-Wang, aka T-Wizzle the Wangster, who will likely never upload the Leon fight of Sword Extreme, cause he probably lost to the first Mon, cause T-Tar is bad at Pokemon. But you know what, he's entertaining as hell, so I don't really give a shit. Ever since the beginning of the streaming era and the advent of shorter, more streamlined seasons of television, there has been a great many losses to the era of television that came before. Episodic plots went from exciting to pointless, seasons went from 13 to 23 episodes of television to now being 6 to 9 episodes, and weekly releases have been replaced by a whole season dropping in one night. And while that last part has been pushed back on recently with weekly releases making a return, one thing that hasn't returned is one of my favorite episodic formats of television: the mid-season finale. For those of you that grew up in the streaming era, this is an entirely foreign concept, so allow me to explain in a way you may understand. Back in the days of serialized television, shows would have a massive moment during an episode that can only be described as, "What the fuck just happened? This changes everything." And this moment would happen in the final episode before the season would go on a month-ish long break. The episode in which this takes place is called a mid-season finale, and its reason for existence is to get people hyped up for when the show returned after the holiday break. The mid-season finale is actually a pretty recent innovation for television, beginning in the 2000s and more specifically 2007 to 2008. In the midst of the 2007-2008 writers' strike, writers were encouraged to end their current seasons on cliffhangers to boost ratings in an attempt to make up for lower episode counts. And there were lots of shows that did this at the time. Fox's Bones wrapped up its season 3 storylines in a way that didn't satisfy fans, while also leaving several cliffhangers. The second season of NBC's Heroes finished up with the fates of several characters in question, and most relevant for today's episode due to the episode sharing a network, the CW's Supernatural was forced to kill off Dean Winchester earlier than they wanted in a way that I, as a viewer, just didn't find very satisfying.
Ruby.
Yes.
Ah, I see we meet again, Katie Cassidy. All this to say, these cliffhangers kept interest in the series during the strike, and network execs realized they could use these early finales to generate more buzz online. So, by having a cliffhanger episode air before a break for what was a weaker month in terms of views like December, they could essentially have 2 season finales during the runtime of the season. And thus, the mid-season finale was born. Honestly, I love mid-season finales. Generally speaking, they have the potential to be some of the best episodes of the season. If season finales before were the culmination of an entire season's worth of plot, mid-season finales divided the season in half while still allowing it to tell the same story. And generally speaking, the Arrowverse shows were excellent at making these episodes land. In Year's End, Oliver gets his ass mollywopped by the Dark Archer, only for us to get the reveal that he's his best friend's father. In 3 Ghosts, it's revealed that Slade is not only alive, but has turned against Oliver so much that he wants to put an arrow through his eye. For some non-Arrow examples, in The Man in the Yellow Suit, Barry gets his ass mollywopped by the Reverse Flash, only for us to get the reveal that he's his idol and mentor. In the present, Barry is flung into the future and watches Megatron make an iris kebab. And in this episode, The Climb, Oliver fights Ra's al Ghul, gets skewered through the chest, and kicked off a mountain. Yeah, Oliver fucking dies in this episode. If that's not a cliffhanger, I don't know what is. This kind of episode has been completely lost with the advent of streaming series and the truncation of seasons and stories. When a season drops all at once, hell, even sometimes when a season drops weekly, you don't get that holy fuck, this changes everything moment that the mid-season finale is known for. And with shows like The Flash, who began truncating their arcs into shorter and shorter packages to keep up with the example set by streaming series, they began to lack a mid-season finale as they transitioned into a new story instead of continuing the one they were telling and actually telling it well. Seriously, I will never understand how the Cobalt Blue arc is only 4 episodes long, and 4 is a stretch, dude. It's the final scene of fucking episode 10. That legit, it does not count. It's a 3-episode arc, and it should have been a 13-episode storyline. For me and many others, a mid-season finale is an important part of the season, and whether it happens at episode 6 of 13 or 9 of 23, a season of TV doesn't feel complete without one anymore. But streaming series, even ones that air weekly, don't have this kind of episode during their run. The closest any streaming series I've watched has come in the last few years is Loki, as the first and second seasons told more or less the same story, which allowed the season 1 finale to act as a mid-season finale. However, even that doesn't really count, as it was the 3rd of the Marvel Disney Plus series to air, and the precedent had already been set that we'd be getting a complete narrative from beginning to end, which left For All Time Always feeling like an unsatisfying conclusion to the season. And the reason it felt like that was because it was inherently not a conclusion. It was the bookend to the first half of that show, the first half of one seasonal story. Or for an even more recent example, skip to this timestamp if you don't want to get spoiled on X-Men 97. Magneto and Gambit's death during the attack on Genosha should have been the mid-season finale as we took a break for a few weeks. Hell, why didn't we get even 1 week off after this episode? Remember It has all the makings of a mid-season finale down to the massive fuck you cliffhanger at the end. Us not getting even a 1 week break after that episode actively pisses me the fuck off. But a mid-season finale is more than just a glorified ratings bump. The mid-season finale serves as an inflection point in the writing of the season. It's an integral part of the season that separates the episodic front half from the plot-focused back half. But if the mid-season finale is such an important part of the season, why have we seen it disappear with the advent of streaming? Well, streaming shows often used to drop all their episodes at once, Netflix ones especially. Streaming shows aren't meant to be aired weekly, but rather binged in 1 or 2 sittings. And with that in mind, it makes sense to not have a mid-season finale. There wouldn't be a point, as you're supposed to just watch the next episode. In other words, the weekly release schedule got replaced by the binge-watching model. Additionally, streaming shows often have fewer episodes than your typical network show. Network shows typically ran for 23 episodes, but streaming shows ran for 13. Once network shows started adapting to that and shortened their runs down to 13 episodes, still more than enough episodes to tell a complete story, streaming shows scaled back again to 6 to 9. And now, even major network series are shrinking their episode counts even more to keep up with the shortening seasons on streaming. Hell, Superman and Lois's final season is getting only 10 episodes to wrap up their story. It really did go by so fast. Why is this the case? Well, I think a lot of it is due to my generation and our continually shortening attention spans and need for instant gratification. These things are incredibly useful tools. And they have also irreversibly ruined our brains. As someone who is a genuine fan of television, it really sucks to see how the game has changed and moved on from the things that set it apart from film. It used to be that shows and films coexisted, with each serving a different purpose and way to tell their stories. Now, television is just seen as nothing more than longer movies with a third of the budget. But hey, at least we've still got a whole era of television to look back on and remember how good it was. So let's stop stalling and get right into Arrow Season 3's mid-season finale. If this is your first episode and you're wondering how my rating system works, there's a detailed description down below, along with a link to all my other episodes of Overanalysis. But I encourage that you watch this one first. I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. With that out of the way, let's return to the Overanalysis. Jake Coburn and Keto Shimizu team up once again to pen The Climb, which first aired December 10th, 2014, and was directed by Thor Freudenthal, his first contribution to the series. The League returns to Starling with an ultimatum for Oliver: find Sarah's killer in 2 days, or they start killing civilians. But when Oliver does find Sarah's killer, the answer shocks and terrifies him, and he's forced to choose to either let someone close to him die, or risk his own life to dethrone the demon's head. So this episode does something that we haven't really seen since the pilot, where they start Oliver not in Starling, but they have him traversing some hard journey. Ooh, good transition there. Oliver's grabbing for something, and then...
Merry Christmas.
Arrow's always done a Christmas episode every season. I didn't actually know this was a Christmas episode. Also, if I look over to the side here, this is the first episode I've recorded with my new setup. I got a monitor over here. I instinctively am looking over here to see my webcam. Ooh. Oh, we're just getting right into it. Oh, nah, it's not just Merlin, Ollie. It's the whole ass League of Assassins. Ooh, like this overhead shot. Yeah, no, this is how it should be. Oliver should be getting his ass handed to him like this. By the League of Assassins, at least. Oh, another great transition, dude. This time using that fade effect with the colors.
My father merely decided to give you the time to bring Sarah's killer to justice, and you have failed. In civilizations past, when someone in the village was murdered, the League would come and kill 50 people a day until the true criminal was rooted out.
Jesus!
You have 48 hours. The cleansing of Starling City will fall to Sarab.
And now we see Maseo in the present day for the first time. Now, I don't know what the general consensus is on this reveal or this character or anything like that, but one thing that I really do like about Maseo being here is that it once again sort of does what Arrow did with the flashbacks of kind of sort of reminiscent of Slade, where it's like Maseo is the good guy, but now we see him as a villain. Not like the main villain in the same way that Slade was, but we see him as a villain, and we now see him popping up in the present day. So Oliver's past and present lives are sort of blending together, bleeding together. But I like that Maseo is here because we've sort of built him up as, like, even though his motives are kind of questionable because of the fact that he works for Waller, he's been built up as, generally speaking, a decent human being, or at least like a man that genuinely cares about his family. So for him to end up in the League, that's kind of a big thing, because it's like, what happened to get Maseo to this point? Especially because he was the one in the gold mask. He punched Oliver out him fucking self. What got Maseo to this point? Was it Tatsu dying? Was it Akio dying? Was it both of them? Did Waller kill them if they died? And we don't know. And it sort of builds up that intrigue similar to what they did with Slade. Plus, I don't believe Maseo is Maseo a comic book character? Let me actually check this. So Maseo is a character in the comics by the looks of things, but it does not appear that Akio is a character in the comics. So I was going to say that Maseo's not a character in the comics, so they could literally do anything with him, but he does actually appear to be a character. And is he a hero or a villain? What's his alignment? Alignment good. So he's actually a hero in the comics. So seeing him as a villain here is actually quite shocking. Whereas like with Slade, there was a bit of a ticking clock, generally speaking, of when are they going to pull the trigger on making Slade the villain. Maseo, for comics fans, Maseo is actually a good guy and has nothing to do with the League of Assassins. So again, what gets him here is, at this point, it's been up in the air, but it's like one of two different things. But still, it creates a little intrigue, which I like. Another reason that I really like that we see Maseo here is because typically the only important members of the League of Assassins is the Al Ghul family. Raz, Talia, Nissa. There really isn't any other named members, at least from what I know. So having Maseo there, it's another named character that the audience is familiar with in the League of Assassins, and that's something that I really like. Because again, there are members of the League of Assassins outside of Batman and the Al Ghul family. And they're just, either they don't exist or they're never brought up. Bro, I just Googled League of Assassins members. And there's, like, I just went to just this one page on comicsvine.gamespot. And there's so many characters here that I have never even heard of. Because the only members of the League of Assassins that want to get adapted are the fucking Al Ghuls. Everyone's so busy riding on the Al Ghul family's dick that they're just forgetting that there's, just on this one page, 93 different characters, and I have not seen Bruce Wayne on here yet. That is fucking insane that there's that many characters in the league and people just don't know about them because of the fucking Al Ghuls just get so overused. So yeah, I really do like that Maseo is a member of the league. So there's someone else in this universe that's a member of the league for the audience to get invested in and care about. Dang it, the headphones fell off. Oh, no fade to black, just a cut? So the fence behind Sarah's gravestone here, I think this is new. I really want to say this is a different scenery than before. So the last time that we saw it was actually in The Magician, and there is actually a fence back there. So no, this, I think, is the same location. It's just at a different angle. Oh yeah, and there's these two, there's this plot of land. I was going to say there's two, but definitely there's this plot of land here. Well, there's a plot of land right here. I couldn't see this one in the other shot, but yeah, I think that this is the same gravestone location. I know, it seems obvious that it should be, because it's a major plot point for this season, but, you know, they've been inconsistent with her gravestone location before, so I wanted to double check.
What are you doing here?
I was just leaving flowers for my mom.
Oh.
Who were you talking to?
I just come here.
Even though Sarah's still alive?
While you were gone, she was murdered.
What did you tell anybody? Like, at least your father, the police?
No.
Laurel, just say my dad has a heart condition.
Are we okay? This is about the kiss.
This is not about the kiss.
Nope, it's been a month since I've watched this show, and it's still weird.
It was a moment, and you regret it. It's over now. Can we please pretend like it never happened and go back to being professionals?
Thank you, Felicity. Is that a fern that I spot?
Caitlin has the DNA that we pulled off of the arrows that killed Sarah, but the STR markers are degraded, so it's taking a little bit longer.
If we can't find Sarah's killer in time, we're gonna need a contingency plan.
How do you have a contingency plan for the League of Assassins? Just out of curiosity, how can you possibly have a contingency plan for the League of fucking Assassins? Oh, is this right after the torture of Lee Kwan Hui?
First time I interrogated someone, I lost my appetite for 2 days.
I didn't interrogate anyone. I tortured him.
So this is a very small exchange in the episode, but I actually really like it for two reasons. Firstly, it shows that Oliver feels remorse for torture, further showing that he did have some humanity left like Barry said he did. And secondly, it shows that Maseo is a good person, or at the very least he's grown to actually care about Oliver enough to help him through this clearly regretful experience. While this budding friendship may have begun out of necessity, Maseo showing Oliver what he's fighting for, it's clear that Maseo and Oliver see each other as more than just business partners now. It's not to the same level as Oliver and Slade's friendship just yet, since that was a season and a half build up to them becoming basically brothers, but having smaller moments like these do serve to flesh out the dynamic between Oliver and Maseo in a similar way, which I really do like.
There's a biotech company in Hong Kong. They were working on a super antibiotic. They got a super virus instead. They're calling it Omega. Said one vial could wipe out an entire city.
Okay, so we finally learn about the Alpha Omega bioweapon. Or at least half of it.
Did he tell you where it is now?
He didn't want to, but I made him.
Mysterious. Oh, this is from the episode that aired a day before this one on Flash. Mysterious yellow blur attacks Star Labs. Because Flash just had their mid-season finale as well.
Are those the DNA results?
I need to run it against potential suspects. Anyone who's committed a felony in the past 3 years. That can't be right.
Who killed Sarah?
You did.
I'm just now realizing a plot hole. Anyone that committed a felony in the last 3 years. Thea got arrested in season 1 for Vertigo, so it should have showed a positive test result for Thea. I definitely remember that, and I wonder if the Arrow writers remember that. I do like that we're seeing Oliver climb this mountain throughout the episode. We're flashing forward in time. Ooh, Ollie, don't slip. That's gonna make me scared. Oh, good transition. God, the editing's great.
2 years ago, when the police arrested Oliver because they thought accurately that he was the vigilante, they took a DNA sample. That sample is...
So they do remember that Oliver got arrested, but they're not bringing up that Thea got arrested. So I just rewatched the ending of Trust But Verify when Thea gets arrested, and they only say that they took her tox screen, so very technically they did not get a DNA sample. But come on, man. This has still got to be some kind of miniature plot hole.
Someone setting you up, Oliver?
Well, somebody with a vested interest in pitting me against the League of Assassins. It's Malcolm Merlin.
Merlin was in Corto Maltese with Thea when this was going down.
Unless he wasn't. He's good at covering his tracks.
So we uncover them. Argus monitors air traffic in and out of countries of interest.
Corto Maltese is on that list.
Look at this flight path.
The route ends at a private landing strip just outside Starling City. When did it land?
The night before Sarah was murdered.
The man in this photo. Did you fly him from Corto Maltese to Starling City?
All right, okay, yes, I flew him here. I've got security footage. You want to see?
Check for October 7th.
Worth noting, the Arrow Season 3 premiere aired on October 8th, so Oliver calling out October 7th is literally the day before that episode aired. Which, you know, considering the plane landed the night before Sarah was murdered, makes sense. There's Thea. The night before Sarah was killed. More of Oliver climbing. Oh, look at this shot, dude. Like, obviously, they want us to focus on the foreground, but looking at this background shot, look at how detailed the mountains are. Like, this strip down here is pretty detailed. This section down here, this part's more faded out, but, oh, and then, like, right here. Man, this shot looks so good.
Maybe it wasn't your DNA, Oliver. Maybe it was Thea's. You two are siblings. There would be overlap, maybe even enough to...
I do like that Diggs bringing up the points there, though. By the way, now that we've actually gotten here, I can stop beating around the bush. The way that the show explains how Thea did it is so fucking stupid. Like, actively. It is stupid. They've been doing a pretty good job with the subtle hints of making you question, like, the gender of the person who killed Sarah. Like, obviously, there was the obvious answer of, oh, it's Thea. But, you know, they did those subtle hints of, like, to take out one man, to take out one woman. Whoever it is you're after, I wouldn't want to be him. Playing the pronoun game, which they do a very good job at it. But again, now that we're here, the way this gets explained, it's dumb. It's so stupid.
Even if she could, why?
Malcolm Merlin is her father.
You know, Sarah wears that wig and a mask and a very low-cut jacket, so for all Thea knows, it's not Sarah that she's killing. Just to play devil's advocate for Roy's point here.
The virtual autopsy I did on Sarah, I thought Roy might have stabbed her because the trajectory wasn't consistent with that of an archer of average height.
Thea is very short. She's very small.
We need to talk, so I came here. I might have pinged your phone.
Why? Ray, that's not okay.
When I kissed you, I felt guilty. Her name is Anna, and we were engaged. The night those men took over the city, we ran into a few. I tried to fight them, but I couldn't. I wasn't strong enough.
And that's why he's making the Atom suit.
And I watched them.
Oh, he had to watch it?
broke her
Oh. Oh, he watched them snap her neck? The fact that it happened isn't what's surprising. What's surprising is that they said it! Are those Moira's Christmas family Christmas decorations?
Thought since it's just the two of us now.
What about Malcolm?
Malcolm's the only family I have left besides you.
That's fair.
I've just been getting to know him, that's all.
A couple of months ago, did you fly back to Starling City with him?
If I was back in Starling City, don't you think I would have called you? Come upstairs and help me find some more Christmas stuff.
Do the Arrow Riders hate Christmas? Is there something with the Arrow Riders I'm not getting? Sound effects played too early.
Found Omega. We might have a problem. Somebody already took it. How did she get in here before us?
Because she knew about it?
She already had someone inside. We want the vial of Omega you stole.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal.
And now they've translated to English for the audience.
I didn't steal anything.
Don't waste your energy on lies.
Oh, he had the stuff in him too. See, I actually forgot that they used it in the flashbacks too, but it's dumber. It's dumber in the present day. It's still dumb, but it's a lot dumber that they use it. You know what? You'll see. Oh, this is this scene? Oh no, I saw the stunt guy's face, dude. Ooh. They showed blood. Like there's a splatter of blood coming from his back, and there's a splatter on the floor. I thought you couldn't do that on the CW. Then what the fuck was Stephen Amell on about when he said that if the Arrow got a revival that he hoped that they would show blood? Motherfucker, you got to! But I know what he meant. He meant that they wanted to invincible this shit. In small doses, there's nothing wrong with a little blood being put in an action scene. Like, I think Daredevil does a pretty decent job of it. But when you get to a point where it's so incredibly gratuitous, like it is in Invincible, that's a turnoff for me. I don't need to see that. Like, the fucking train scene? Nah. They just did that for shock value. The purpose of showing blood and or gore in an action scene is to show how serious a moment is, or to show the stakes, which is why one of the things that is allowed on the network, or on network television, is that you can see blood, like, on the character's face, or in, like, a wound on their arm or something like that. That's shown to show you how big the stakes are, or how serious the fight is. But when it's the norm on a show, like Invincible, and not the exception, it's not special anymore. It doesn't heighten the stakes. They just do it to do it. They just do it to be gratuitous, and it serves no point in the narrative. So, yeah, you can show a little bit of blood, like a cut on an arm, or the chest, or the face, or something like that, but don't go the Invincible route. It serves no purpose in the story when you go the Invincible route. But enough about that thing. They just showed Roz taking out 8 League of Assassins guys by himself, which shouldn't be surprising. It's Ra's al Ghul, but we know how strong the League of Assassins is. We know that Oliver nearly died trying to fight Malcolm in Season 1. We know that the only reason Oliver beat Nyssa in a fight is because she let him win. So they're doing this to establish to the audience just how big of a threat that Roz is. Especially because he makes it look fucking effortless. Because it weirdly kind of is likely that you're not going to have heard of Ra's al Ghul unless you're a Batman guy. Like, if you just watched this show for the first 2 seasons, but you didn't really read the comics, you're not gonna know who Ra's is, so they do kind of need to do this for, like, the general audience. But at the same time, Insomniac didn't spoon feed to the audience exactly what the symbiote is, because you know what the symbiote is. Ra's al Ghul, like, he's a member of Batman's Rogues Gallery. he's not as famous as the Joker, but he's like arguably number 2. So of course, yeah, you probably don't need an introduction to Ra's al Ghul. But at the same time, this is 2014 and superhero stuff isn't as big as it is now. Although, with the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy starting in 2005, the Arkham games starting in 2009, and now Arrow doing Ra's al Ghul in 2014, there was a lot of Ra's al Ghul in this 10-year period. So even discounting the fact that superhero stuff isn't as big in 2014 as it is now, you probably don't need an introduction to who Ra's al Ghul is at this point. But still, this scene is more to set up the character for the CW audience as opposed to for the hardcore comic fan audience.
I went to see Thea. She lied to me again, but she didn't kill Sarah.
Oliver, you are one of the smartest men I've ever known, but you have a blind spot when it comes to your family.
That's true. With Moira, he did have a blind spot for Moira.
I don't want to believe that she could do something like this.
I don't want to believe. There we go. That it comes out.
Which is why you shouldn't be the one asking the questions.
Oh, little ornament of Moira.
Thea Queen, where is Malcolm Merlin?
Oh, I thought that he was gonna say it! They're being very good about not showing Thea's stunt double. Ooh, look at the sunrise here. Yo, seeing it peer through the clouds like this? Dude, all of these shots are so great. I should also remind all of you, they did shots like this on a TV budget. And yeah, it's a fairly simple shot just of Oliver climbing in the foreground with the background like this, but this looks great.
Thea just called and said she was attacked by the Arrow.
You know, I figured when I spared the man who murdered my mother, I would never kill again. I was wrong.
Check your phone.
I can wait.
The sound effect of the first arrow that Thea shot in that video doesn't line up with when Thea actually shot the arrow. And you can tell because the other 2 times that she does it, the sound effects play at the correct times. Listen again. Like, we just watched the same thing, right?
I don't think you'd want the leak to see that. You've heard of a plant called Votura? It grows in South America. In fact, it thrives in Corte Maltese, making the subject extremely susceptible to suggestion while retaining no memory of their actions.
Arrow, the show, and the writers. Yes, it's a comic book show, so it's entirely possible that this plant exists. They want me to believe. Susceptible to suggestion. Fine. Retaining no memory of your actions, that's where it gets dumb for me. See, the reason that I didn't like this is because why the fuck isn't this more well known? Why the fuck isn't this used more? The easiest explanation would have just been that Thea didn't know she was killing Sarah, but they had to do some mind control bullshit. I am a Season 3 defender now. This is dumb. Well, I'll be damned. There's no fucking way, dude. There's a real world kind of sort of equivalent of this. Scopolamine, aka Devil's Breath. In popular media and television, it's portrayed as a method to brainwash or control people into being defrauded by their attackers. There is a debate whether these claims are true. It's not verified if the powdered form is capable of inducing a suggestive state. I bet that if I just Googled Devil's Breath, I'm just gonna get Spider-Man. Common in the South American country of Colombia, and we see that Corte Maltese is an island off the coast of South America, so that parallel kind of sort of lines up. In the past, there were stories circulating that a chemical known as Devil's Breath was making its way around the world, being blown into faces and soaked into business cards to render unsuspecting tourists incapacitated. The compound is said to lead to hallucinations, frightening images, and a lack of free will. Amnesia can occur, leaving... What? This... This is real? I take back everything that I said. This isn't dumb. This is terrifying. If you'll allow me a second to rephrase my criticism. This isn't dumb. This is contrived. Because we've been given absolutely no inclination to believe that Malcolm would try to mind control his own daughter.
What I've done is given you incentive to tell Roz that you killed Sarah Lance. By right, you will be given a trial by combat with Roz. His death will erase any blood debt from his reign, including Thea's and yours.
But you see, that right there, that's still dumb. So you mean to tell me that Malcolm fucking Merlin, who nearly killed Oliver multiple times in season 1, who is not a match for Ra's al Ghul him fucking self, genuinely believes that Oliver can kill Roz? I can officially confirm this dumb fuck right here, that is not season 1 Malcolm. The Malcolm that I know from season 1, he's not this stupid! Or maybe this is some kind of joke at the expense of the show of Oliver has plot armor and main character shields. But I feel like that's a bit of a stretch to say that. Is that what Malcolm's banking on? Is he banking on Oliver being the main character? This stretches things too far for me. This right here, this is the dumbest fucking thing that I have seen any singular character do in this series. And I have seen Oliver and Barry let multiple villains get away throughout this whole season. Because here's the thing. What does Malcolm get out of it if Oliver loses? Malcolm has everything to lose and nothing to gain by matching Oliver up against Roz. This really isn't the Queen's Gambit that Malcolm thinks it is. Pun fully intended. There is no advantage that Malcolm could conceivably gain from taking this risk, because he's essentially making Yamcha go fight Beerus. The matchup here is so completely imbalanced in Ra's favor that it's just stupid. No, this is bad writing. This is such bad writing.
During the undertaking, Merlin told me that I couldn't win because I didn't know what I was fighting for. Now I do.
But there's a big difference between determination and raw skill. Then again, Oliver doesn't really know that Roz is as old and as strong as he is, so I guess there's a little bit of an argument that you could make there for being like, yeah, maybe Oliver thinks that he's got some kind of edge with knowing what he's fighting for. I do like the callback to Sacrifice, though, in that moment, for the record, but still, there is the gap of power between Oliver and Roz is just too wide for this matchup to be believable. Or at the very least, for it to be even, or anyone's game, much less in Oliver's favor. Even if we want to accept the retcon of introducing Talia al Ghul into Oliver's backstory, that makes it slightly more okay, but the gap is still just too wide. Because Oliver only trained with Talia for a year max, and I guarantee you it wasn't more than 6 months. So I just checked the Arrowverse wiki, and Talia actually shows up in only 3 flashback episodes, and one of which is only at the very end of episode 10. Meaning that, with a very generous estimate, her and Oliver only trained together for 2 weeks to a month. And again, that's a generous estimate. Oliver has had no formal league training, essentially. And this matchup is still completely unrealistic and one-sided.
You should have confessed by now.
says he doesn't remember. I didn't think it a possibility until now. There's a drug. It's called Vatura. I've heard it makes people extremely susceptible to suggestion.
So not only... so not only did Maceo name drop it, but Oliver forgot that he name dropped it? Bro, as soon as Thea's name came up in conversation, Oliver should have said, actually, there is a drug. I've heard of it. I've seen it before. It makes people susceptible to suggestion. So while Thea's body did this, her mind was absent because she was with Malcolm and she doesn't remember it. Though, to be fair to Oliver, Thea has been lying to him basically since they met up in Corto Maltese, so Oliver doesn't really have any reason to believe that Vatura is involved, so it just probably didn't cross his mind. I actually disagree with episode Demigod on this one.
Like mind control? Really? That's a thing?
Exactly. Yeah, Oliver! That's a thing! Exactly, Oliver! You know, I'm not actually mad at this for two reasons. One, because that's actually a really great example of lamp shading, and two, because that is a very funny soundbite, and I'm gonna stick it in the vault right next to...
It's brutal AA honesty talking.
And...
It's not the time, Diggle.
Oh, and now they're showing us the family. Because they showed us Maceo in the present day, so it's leading you to believe these two are about to get fridged. Although I think many DC fans would probably believe that they're not just gonna fridge Katana. But basically, literally anything could happen. Arrow is a very disloyal comic book adaptation. And again, we've only seen Tatsu use the sword once, so for all intents and purposes, this still could technically be an adaptation in name and name only.
Good evening, Mrs. Yamashita. Is your husband home?
Ooh, she goes for the other one. Oh, with the... Oh, wait. Look at the light swinging, and it's reflecting off the swords. Oh, dude, the light is still swinging. That's cool. Oh. Just a cut that time, no blur.
You really think my father would travel all the way from Nanda Parbat simply because you wish it?
Yes.
But the fact that he's right is what gets me. Dude, I wanted you to...
You're just a boy.
So Oliver's what, like 30 in this scene? So I did the math. Oliver's birth date is May 16th of 85, which means that the Queen's Gambit went down in 2007, which would make him 22. So Oliver is 29 in this scene. The first line that we hear Roz say to this man is, "You're just a boy." Nah, that's sick as fuck, bro. He's heard the tales of Oliver Queen, the man that stopped the undertaking and the siege. And so seeing him as this, like, compared to Roz, relatively green and young person, it doesn't live up to Roz's expectations of him. So him saying, "You're just a boy," that's fucking great, dude. This is the scene where this episode actually got good. Also, for this clip, I found out that Oliver's a Taurus. They're ambitious, focused, and resilient, and they aren't afraid to work hard. Yeah, that sounds exactly like Oliver. Not at first, but after the island, absolutely. You gotta give Oliver that one.
Mr. Queen, you failed to protect the city you love.
You have failed this city. Should I count that on the "you have failed this city"? I mean, he says, "Mr. Queen, you have failed to protect the city you love." It's a paraphrase. It's not exactly a "you have failed this city," but you can see the writer's intentions behind making Roz say that. It's very clearly supposed to be, because Roz is... This version of Roz is a dark reflection of Oliver. So you can see them putting that little line in there of him saying, without saying, "You have failed this city."
You were to produce for me the one who killed Taya Safa.
I killed Sarah
Why would you kill a woman you once professed to love?
because she begged me to. It wasn't the first time Sarah chose death over a life in the League.
Roz is intrigued now.
I should have Sarah cleave your head from your shoulders. Not for killing my daughter's beloved, but for thinking me a fool.
He knows! Roz knows!
By League law, I have the right to challenge you to a trial by combat. It's been 67 years since someone challenged me. Do you accept? Oh, yes.
See, the thing is, Roz isn't pissed. He's impressed at the set of balls that Oliver has on him. He doesn't know nor care why Oliver is challenging him. He's just like, interesting. I appreciate your boldness, Mr. Queen. I'll indulge you. Here's the thing, I'm gassing this version of Roz up, and the reason that I'm doing that is because nobody else will. When Arrow Season 3 came out, it was not liked. People did not like this season. They did not like that they went with Roz as the villain. They did not like what they did with this version of Roz. And I'll admit, he wasn't really ever my favorite villain on this show either. But the more that I've seen what the writers have done with this version of the character and what they've done with this sort of season, I've come to appreciate it a lot more. And see, I allude to the writers making him a dark reflection of Oliver, but I'm not exactly going to say why yet. And the reason is because they haven't exactly said it in the show just yet. Dark reflection villains are some of my personal favorite types of villains because while they are very easy and a little bit cliche, their purpose is to make the audience understand and appreciate the characters and make the characters introspect and see what went wrong in this person who's very similar to them's life to stray them off the course of being who they were before and now becoming this dark reflection of themselves. And yes, obviously there's the tropey saying of, we're not so different, you and I, but that became a trope and a cliche for a reason, because it worked. Also, just for the record, this motherfucker said that it's been 67 years since he was last challenged. Now, I don't believe it was Damien Dark to be the last one to challenge him, because I know the two of them fought for who was going to be the next Ra's al Ghul. So just because he says that it was 67 years since the last time he was challenged, that doesn't mean that it's been 67 years since he took over. It just means that he has so much skill and authority and, superroids, because he's got that Lazarus Pit activity. Just because it's been 67 years since he's been challenged doesn't mean that he's only been ruling the league for 67 years. I guarantee you, this motherfucker's been doing this shit for a century. Here we go. Dude, look at the mountains in the background. And here we go, Oliver's made it to the top.
Maseo, my name is Sarab. Maseo is dead.
After it happened, you went to Nanda Parbat.
He's saying it to potentially allude to the audience that Tatsu and Akio might still die in this episode.
I have no desire to watch you die. You have 12 hours to settle your affairs.
See, even though Maseo says that there is nothing left of Maseo, there actually is, because he's the one that's giving Oliver this information. He says he doesn't want to watch Oliver die because he's still got that honor, and these two still have a connection from those flashbacks. So Maseo is still in there somewhere, buried deep down under Sarab, although he's letting that show because it's Oliver that he's speaking to now. And so he's now letting down those walls that he built up while he was in the league a little bit. This is probably the first time that Maseo has felt normal, has felt human in a long time.
This location is consecrated ground for the League, a place for the settlement of blood debts, if one survives the climb.
Roll credits. Oh, this is a nice shot.
Last time you had that look on your face, you told me Dad committed.
Oh! I'm just genuinely surprised that you are allowed to say stuff like that on network television. Like, every time that Arrow has one of these lines like this, and admittedly, they stopped doing it after this season, but I am surprised they're allowed to say that on network television. If this were a streaming show, I'd be unable to understand it. But this is network television.
You think you know who Malcolm Merlin is. He doesn't love you because he's not capable of it.
Considering this is a Malcolm Merlin post-character assassination, yes, Oliver is correct. But in season 1, Malcolm put Tommy above everyone and everything because he actually cared about his kid. But now that his character development and his characterization and everything about him has just been thrown out the window, Oliver's right. Malcolm is incapable of caring about people, and I will hear no arguments to the contrary. He also went from a methodical master planner to a fucking dumbass because the plot literally does not work unless he is an absolute moron. Hey, don't go giving me that look. Go give the Arrow writers that look. I'm not the one that did this.
You're my family. There's nothing that I won't do to protect you.
You can see on the tree here, they got these 2 ornaments for Oliver and Thea. Oliver's is in green because he's the Arrow. Thea's is in red because she's Speedy.
Yo, where's your mother?
The white-haired woman. She took her.
Crazy that China White came and did it herself, though.
You told me about Anna, but you didn't tell me the truth.
I can't tell you. I have to show you.
Are we gonna get to see the hologram again? Yeah!
What is it?
OMAC was the Queen Consolidated designation.
Oh my god, he just said OMAC!
But I'm kind of partial to ATOM, Advanced Technology Operating Mechanism. Adam.
She's like, ah, fuck, I really do have a type. Is that their last handshake? Well, it's what Oliver thinks is gonna be their last handshake.
You have to kill Ra's al Ghul. I don't doubt that you can beat him. I am terrified that you won't kill him. Because that's not who you are anymore. And I am so afraid that Ra's al Ghul is going to use your humanity against you.
Felicity, I honestly don't know if I'm a killer anymore. But I do know 2 things. I'm someone that will do whatever it takes to save my sister.
And the second thing?
I love you.
He says it really casually, too, without expecting a response from Felicity. And now we are here! The time has arrived! So as is tradition with Arrow, when we go to a new location, we get a new color palette. The island has this very dreary color palette. Corto Maltese had that more yellow-scaled one. Starling City is more shaded in different tones of green. And as we can see, the neutral site here that is on top of the mountain is more, it's got this more like white coloration to it. Makes this big climactic battle a lot more atmospheric to have like a whole new color palette to it, along with some really great set design. Like it's got a couple of these stone pillars. Set design in this episode is fantastic.
Ra's al Ghul is not known to be merciful, but if there was a chance, this would be your final moment for it.
See, dude, Masayo's even giving him a chance.
Choose your weapon.
What the fuck kind of sword is this? So it's clearly a straight blade, and then there's rings around it. What am I looking at here? So if you take a look at it from this angle here, the blade is actually straighter, and the rings are coming off the back. And according to Google, this is actually a Dao broadsword, also known as a 9-ring broadsword, also known as a Jihuan Dao, and I definitely just mispronounced that. But basically, these things are actually like cultural art pieces, and some people actually believe that the rings on the back make the blade stronger. So you learn something new every day. There's the dragon tattoo, by the way, and there is the Bratva tattoo. Oh, and the Constantine tattoo's down there too. Oh, I wasn't even looking for that one.
I was 11 years old when I killed my first man.
Jesus.
And I'd felt ashamed. I'd stolen from that man the most precious gift of all. Life. But I also felt something else. Pride. Because I had taken up arms against someone who sought to do ill against my family.
And see, that first inkling, by the way, of us getting that Roz is a dark reflection of Oliver. Because I had taken up arms against someone who sought to do ill against my family. Like both Roz and Malcolm have sought to do so far in this episode alone.
I had replaced evil with death. And that is what the League exists to do.
I had replaced evil with death. That's what the League exists to do. In other words, it's kind of like Oliver's crusade, you know? Oliver's goal in season 1 was to use the list of names that his father left him to bring down those who are poisoning his city, to replace evil with something better, one might say. Obviously, I've pointed out Oliver's scars a ton of times, but if you look at Ra's al Ghul, there are no scars on his upper body, no scars on his body from what we can see, which just goes to, again, reinforce the threat level of how strong Ra's is. This man's been alive for over 100 years and has no scars on his body, partially because of the Lazarus Pit and its insane regeneration. Another part of it because he's just that good of a fighter. Looking at this man with absolutely no scars on his body, that's another hint. Oliver stands no fucking chance against this guy.
I'm envious of you. You'll see her before I do.
Oh, Nissa!
Fight me, boy.
He still addresses him as boy, too.
You're unarmed. I'll take your blades from you once you're through with them.
Now that's just petty as fuck, Roz! Dude, nah, this fight is so fucking good, dude. I have watched this fight several times in the lead up to this episode. I've noticed so many things, but with no uncertainty in my mind, the best thing about this fight, there is no background music. The only things that you can hear are the sound effects, the grunts from the actors, and the wind howling in the background. And see, the reason that works, the reason that it works in this moment is because Arrow uses background music so often that when you remove that background music, it makes everything have so much more impact. It's a lot different than when shows don't use background music and every fight just has this same exact thing. There's no background music. There might be a little bit of ambiance. There might even be a couple sound effects, but because Arrow uses background music so often, it makes the absence of it that much greater. Also, it's Stephen Amell that does this whole fight. Matt Nable has a stunt guy, but that's Stephen Amell doing it. Oh, that move is cool as hell. Dodges that out of the way. That's just not, he's just stunting on him now. Dude, look at the apathy on Ra's face. He's like, so when is this dude's gonna start trying? This is the legendary Oliver Queen that I've heard so much about. When is he gonna start trying? This is unimpressive. that wide shot's so good. I just want to put extra emphasis on how good the backgrounds of this fight are real quick. Obviously, you've got the snow, and you can see in this take here that Stephen Amell actually left some footprints, but there's tons of footprints on here, to be fair, but, like, look at these trees in the background, alright? This looks so fucking real, and the mist in the air, too. And then you get to this shot, and you can just see, like, the mountains in the background, and you can see, like, look at this. Obviously, again, there's those stone formations, there's these trees up here, and there's the edge of that cliff. Bruh. This looks so fucking good. Oh, but this shot takes it, dude. You only get to see it for a second, but, like, look at this. You get a view of the whole peak that they're fighting on. You can see the edge of the cliff here. There's this forest down on this side, and then you can see down the mountain range, and you can see, like, look at that, dude. That's so fucking detailed. You know, there have been a couple things, like, I can see Roz's stunt guy. There's a couple sound effects that are off. This is the best set design in the entire show. Like, look at this fucking shot, dude. That massive budget increase that you typically get in between seasons. I say typically, but while I did notice it in season 2, I didn't notice it in season 3 until now. So maybe they were given like a slight budget increase, or maybe they were given the same budget to work with and they just used it all in this scene, or they, you know, splurged on whatever smaller budget that they had to make this scene look as good as it looks. I see where they spent all that money now. Like, look at how good this looks. Episode's getting a 5 in visuals. I don't care. Sure, not the entire episode looks as good as this, but this is what you watch the episode for, so you're gonna get some extra points for that. And of course, the fight between Oliver and Roz is amazing too, but like, just look at this shot, man. This shot is fucking breathtaking. They did this on a TV budget. On a CW budget. Modern Marvel has 10 times the budget of this, and this looks better! Oh yeah, you can see the stunt guy there. But you know what? I don't care.
You should take pride. You survived longer than most.
It's also in this moment that I'm going to bring up. Oliver has not landed a single hit on this motherfucker. Oliver, with a kill count of whatever the fuck I've counted it to be at this point, champion ass kicker of this show, has not landed one blow on Ra's al Ghul. Not a slash of a sword, not a punch, not a kick. Oliver has landed jack fucking shit on this man. That punch in the face right there, that's the one blow Oliver lands. Right here. That's the one blow Oliver lands. Motherfucker catches the sword, gets Oliver in the throat twice.
Don't be afraid, my son. Death comes for us all. Consider this an honorable exit.
Oh! Notice that little speech that Roz gives Oliver too. When he says you should take pride, you've survived longer than most, and when he gets that one hit on him, that earned a little bit of Roz's respect. And also it shows that Roz does have some honor in him. Sure, it may have been snuffed out by years and years and years of being Ra's al Ghul, being the demon's head, but he does still have some honor in him. He was saying, protect him from the torment of the fire. He was telling God to protect him from hell. Which I guess in a weird way kind of sort of happens when Oliver does actually die because he becomes Spectre. So I guess in a weird way, Roz did actually get protected from the torment of the fire. But I really like that they made Roz a little bit complex, because you could argue that with Malcolm and Slade, they kind of sort of didn't really do that. Like, Malcolm cared about Tommy, he cared about his child, but he was still an evil piece of shit. Slade was crazed by revenge out of some misguided belief that he needed to exact revenge for Shadow's death. But like Oliver, Roz is someone who fights with honor, who isn't really a bad person. He's just an arbiter of justice, or an arbiter of what he believes to be justice. In Roz's mind, the League of Assassins is a global peacekeeping force. I mean, he does say that is what the League exists to do, to replace evil with death. And so he recognizes that commonality with Oliver, as Oliver is a man who wants to save his city, but Roz is a man who wants to save his world. And so I feel like that's one of the things that people really didn't like about Roz, is that they made him not sympathetic, but understandable. They didn't make him a villain. They made him, what's the term for this? I don't think anti-hero is the right word, but I don't think anti-villain fits either. No, anti-villain is the right term. A character with heroic goals, personality traits, and/or virtues who is ultimately the villain. Their desired ends are mostly good, but their means of getting there range from evil to undesirable. Yeah, so Roz is an anti-villain. So in a weird way, one of the reasons that people didn't like this version of Roz was because they didn't make him hateable enough. They just made him this anti-villain, dark reflection of Oliver that sees himself as an arbiter of justice, as opposed to seeing himself as like, your god or your savior or the hero of his own story. He just sees himself as the arbiter of justice. He sees himself kind of exactly how Oliver sees himself, as a man who's done a lot of wrong for the right reasons, and who now does that on a very, very large scale with the League. I mean, at the beginning of this scene, he did say that he felt ashamed for killing that guy, but he also felt pride for it because he was doing the right thing and protecting his family. He was saving lives, but that required taking one. So he did the wrong thing for the right reasons. Kind of exactly what Oliver does. And that's why he has that honor. That's why that honor and this speech works, is because Roz does have that, because he and Oliver share similar beliefs and goals. Their methods are just very different, and the scale of how they do things is just very different as well. And there he goes. Oliver just got kicked off a mountain. Now to all the Zoomers watching, and all the people that have been conditioned to believe that 8 episodes is a season of television, tell me, how do you feel about needing to wait a month plus to watch the next episode? How do you feel about about watching this episode as it aired and now needing to wait a month plus to watch the next episode? Because to some of you, that is a completely unfathomable concept. Food for thought. Food for thought. Well, guys, we made it. We made it through the episode where the quality of Arrow literally fell off a cliff. The plot of the episode is fine enough. It does what it needs to do. It definitely gets a lot of points for the cliffhanger ending, but I also have to take away just as many, if not more, for Malcolm's plan being absolute nonsense. It's all just too convenient, and the evidence against it working is just too great. Not to mention, the twist gives off the impression that the writers thought it was a lot more clever than it actually was. So, while the episode made for a great ending, the way we got there is so asinine that some people might find it hard to enjoy. That major asterisk aside, the rest of the episode's overarching structure isn't all that bad. Pretty basic by mid-season finale standards, and they do have to kind of fumble fuck their way into the climax, but it works for what it is. The characters are written pretty well here, aside from Malcolm, which is the entire reason that I have to dock this category a whole point. This isn't the second instance of Malcolm adapting his Season 3 characterization, which I once said that I would eventually boost the points up gradually for. This is the first instance of Malcolm being actively stupid, which if you've watched Season 1, you know for a fact he isn't. Roz, on the other hand, firmly establishes himself as a well-layered antagonist with an incredible presence to him. I really like how they subtly injected the elements of him being a dark reflection of Oliver into the episode, and his manner of speaking is very grandiose and unique for this show. Malcolm's manner of speaking is very snappy, he has quick responses. Slade is very menacing in the way that he talks. But Roz, the only way I can really describe his manner of speech is grand, and that really sets him apart from the other main villains of the show we've had so far. Oliver's written really well too, and no, I don't see this as a slap in the face to Season 2's ending. I don't have a problem with Oliver killing people. I have a problem with the show framing him as less heroic of a protagonist and discounting his good actions. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over him killing Malcolm or Roz, and I don't think anybody else should either. I liked Ray in this episode too for what they gave him. It felt like the rest of the season was the writers biding their time to finally get us to him becoming the Atom. It didn't feel like they were spinning their wheels, more like they were just laying down the train tracks by getting us used to his mannerisms and screen presence. Everyone else was written in character as well. I would have given this episode a whole 4 for Roz by himself, and then everyone else being written average could have boosted it up to a 5, which seemed to have happened here for a minute. But then Malcolm just had to come along and fuck it over for everybody. So you get a 4. Visuals is a 5. Importance is a 5. Entertainment, I'll give a 4. If you saw the twist with Thea coming, and I don't know how you couldn't have, they didn't do a very good job of presenting alternatives to the obvious answer, I can see you getting pretty impatient with this episode. But come on, how can you not pog at the first time you see that ending? Episode's getting a 20 out of 25. And rather unfortunately, much like with Oliver, I fear that it is all downhill from here. Like Oliver, the show never reaches these highs again, and that's the last time that I'm gonna mention him falling off that mountain, okay? But seriously, this is the episode that the fanbase generally considers as the series finale. Because how can you possibly survive falling off a mountain? Okay, I'll reference it one more time. But also because the show just never, not even in season 5, hits this quality of writing again. And really, that sucks. Like, I don't even have a joke for that. That's just unfortunate. That is it for this episode, guys. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. That'd be greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already so that you can join us as soon as freaking possible. And while I'm plugging everything else, be sure to click the bell so that you get notified whenever we upload any of these crappy videos. But apart from that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys. This is Demigod Shmurda. Edge!